Alright, so I've never really watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I've never read the books. HBO Max has all the Lord of the Rings movies. It has the full trilogy, and I have a 3 month HBO Max trial. So I decided to watch the trilogy. I was originally going to read the books first, but I was reading online and I saw this post like the movies have like Peter Jackson's characters are better, while the books have better world building. And they said it's better to read or watch the movies with those characters in mind, and then read them in the books with the better world building. Um, so I decided to watch the movies first, and yeah, so I that's really all. Decided to watch the movies first. I don't know if I'll read the books. I'm not really into fantasy. I've heard good things about this trilogy, but going into it, my expectations are I'll just think they're pretty good. I don't think I'll think they're masterpieces like most people do. You know, fantasy, sword fighting, it's not really my thing. So going into this, the expectations aren't very high. Um, so yeah, I'll just get right into it. All right, so I just watched Fellowship of the Ring. I gave it some time to sink in. I wrote a review on my Discord server, um, but yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was a masterpiece. Um, like it's like on the top 20 IMDb movies of all time. I don't think it was that good. So basically, this film was a hero's journey. It was the hero's journey with Frodo, who's the main character. Um, I thought that it was. I thought that the characters were definitely the best part of this movie. Like I read in that post, the characters are done very well. I agree with that. The characters and their relationships and the way they act, also the acting, that was all done very well. I think that was the best part of this movie was the characters. I think the world building brought it down a little bit for me. And here's why. As a person who's never read the books, who's not really into fantasy and all that stuff, this movie kind of just crams all the world building it can in there. And it's actually done pretty well, I'm sure. I'm sure it would hold up on rewatches as I learn more and more, but like on the first viewing, it was kind of overwhelming with all this stuff they're trying to tell you. Um, and I know there is a 4 hour extended edition, and I thought, well, an extra hour of runtime could help to kind of let this all sink in and kind of let the viewer get an idea of what this world is like. But from what it seems like the 4 hour extended editions just cram more world building in there. I could be wrong. HBO Max just has the normal 3 hour ones. Those are the ones I'm watching. The theatrical cuts doesn't have the extended editions. I thought the world building was a bit much. A bit much. It was a little hard to keep track of everything. Like watching this, what is this called? Middle Earth. Um, I didn't really have a visual of the progression throughout Middle Earth. And I'm going to be comparing this to Star Wars A New Hope. Um, because I think that does world building better. It doesn't, you know, throw you a new species, a new place, a map every 5 minutes. It lets you it shows you the world and you get it completely. It's not super overwhelming. You don't need to know the names of all these species and all these people. It's just done really well, and the progression throughout Tatooine is it's really easy to get a visual. Like, okay, we have Luke's house here. All right, now we're going into this kind of Baron's rocky place. All right, and that's where the he meets Obi-Wan, and then we go to Mos Eisley. Like, it does really good at allowing you to keep track of the map. This movie, I thought it could have done that better. I didn't have the greatest idea of what was happening here. Um, but yeah, the characters were the most interesting part for me, and I wish it would have expanded on them more instead of trying to do all this world building. You know, it seems it so like visually the movie looks great. Okay, all the world is done visually a lot, but it's just like the exposition. I felt like it was kind of distracting from the characters and the hero's journey. That's the part that I cared about the most in this movie. So like I said, the visuals are very good. The cinematography is great. The fight scenes look great. I felt like sometimes the editing what could have been done better. But this movie did release in 2001, I think. So I can't blame it very much. Um, Sometimes the dialogue is hard to make out through all the stuff going on, and I think that could contribute to my kind of problem with how much world building. Again, it does it well. I'm sure if you've read the books, if you've watched the movies multiple times, it will all make sense perfectly and it will be great. Um, that's just not that's not what I like the most about in this movie. What I liked the most was the characters. Again, the plot is I felt like this movie my besides the world building, my biggest problem would be it felt like it was setting up a trilogy. Obviously it was, but it didn't feel like it concluded anything. It felt like they just cut it off in the middle of the plot. And maybe that's the way this trilogy's supposed to be, which is actually why I'm looking forward to watching the other ones. Because the way it was set up, it wasn't like A New Hope is one of my favorite movies. Um, and the movie concludes itself, and you're gonna say, well, they didn't know they were gonna make a sequel. Well, let's look at Empire Strikes Back. It still concludes things. Han and Leia's relationship was done and concluded in that movie, whilst here, it didn't feel like I didn't get that satisfaction. I felt like that it just seems like they were setting up the other movies, as opposed to just finishing off this one. Um, yeah, that's definitely what it felt like. Um, the production value is great. I wouldn't call it a masterpiece. The heart of the movie was the most engaging part. The score I thought fit the movie really well. It didn't absolutely blow me away like the Interstellar soundtrack did, for example. Um, yeah, I felt like the score fit it really well. All the characters felt like they fit in this world, and the world felt like it had been lived in. Again, with all this extensive lore. The movie did feel like it was 3 hours long. It didn't completely just hook me and it went by like that. Um, but overall, I enjoyed the movie, and I think objectively it's better than I'm giving it credit for. I'd still give the movie a 7.5 out of 10, which is actually a pretty high rating. If you don't know, my rating system is basically below 5 out of 10 is bad, above 6 out of 10 is good, 5 out of 10 is okay. So, like, a 7 out of 10 would be pretty good, and 8 out of 10 is really good. So, the movie's in between there. So, I definitely enjoyed it. It sounds like I have, all these problems and I just hate the movie. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the second one, and the third one. I'm looking forward to those. But yeah, those were really what I took away from this movie. Um, I'm hoping that the other ones will focus on the characters more. But like by the end of this one, I still didn't know the names of half of the people here because it's a lot. There's a large cast of characters, and although I like their personalities, I still didn't know their names because it was like mentioned once, and along with the other seven people on this council, all the names were kind of dropped in that one space. Um, but yeah, I feel like this will have really good progression as a trilogy. That's kind of where I'm at right now with what I'm expecting for the other ones. Um, I hope I like the other ones. I yeah, I don't think it's a masterpiece, but Fellowship of the Ring was definitely a good movie. It was a pretty good movie. It was I just didn't, you know, enjoy it as much as other people seem to. Um, yeah, so I guess I'll just move into the other ones now. All right, so I just finished The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. This is the second one. It was really long as well. All three of these are 3 hours. I think I mentioned that. Um, but yeah, this was a long movie, and I have to say I liked it better than the first one. A lot of the things that I liked about the first one were improved on and expanded on in this one. So it had a much darker tone than the first one, and it's not like it was just a sudden shift. And well, it was a sudden shift, but it had a reason behind it, and it made sense, and it worked. The first one was much lighter. This one is much darker in the tone. And I really enjoyed that. I really liked the darker tone. I thought it fit the story of this one well. The lighter tone definitely fit the Fellowship of the Ring. The darker tone fit the Two Towers. I don't know what tone Return of the King will have, obviously. Um, but yeah, this one had a much darker tone, and I like that. It didn't try to cram so much world building. That was my problem with the first one. Was it was kind of hard to keep track. This one didn't cram all that much. I had time to think about the characters. The characters were the main focus. They were expanded on, like Aragon and Legolas. Is that his name? I don't know. That guy's really cool though. He slid down the steps on the shield, shooting bows and arrows. Like, yeah, these characters. I actually know their names now. Also, yeah, they were really improved upon, and really this kingdom. I just forgot the name. It was on the tip of my tongue. All right, Rohan. I forgot about that. I'm so sorry. I forgot the name. I keep forgetting it. So Rohan, we had this kingdom of Rohan, and we got these new characters, and it was all done really well. All the performances were very good. I just enjoyed it a lot. The fight scenes were also amazing. The cinematography, the choreography. I really loved all of that. All of the shots in this movie looked really well done. There is some CGI that's a little dated. This was 2002. But like the sets, the costumes, the hair, the makeup, all that is still, really well done. But yeah, like I said, some of the CGI has dated a little bit. Um, yeah, so about halfway through this movie, I realized, wow, I actually care about some of these characters. So, that was really nice. I got attached to the characters already. Yeah, I like the editing. I thought that was done well. Yeah, it kind of gave me an Avengers vibe with like the back and forth during the fight scenes between the characters. Specifically Legolas and the dwarf Gim. It's Gim something. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. But yeah, the back and forth between them specifically was also well done. Kind of gave me that Avengers vibe. Obviously, this came before the Avengers, but that's just what my mind went to, for an example. Um, I do have some problems though. One thing that I don't like, and this is kind of spoiler territory here. There are a lot of characters that like they'll make them die and then they'll bring them back, and it's kind of gone to the point where if somebody dies, I'm not gonna feel anything because I'm assuming they're still gonna come back, and it does this specifically with leads a lot, and I was kind of like that kind of took me out because I'm like, all right, now if anybody dies for real, it's not gonna have any impact because they faked me out like 4 times. And another thing is it cuts back and forth between the plots too much. We have like an A plot, a B plot, and a C plot. And like when it reaches the climax of the A plot, it cuts to just some random thing like Pippin's talking to a tree. Like, how's it going? Did you guys make your choice yet? Like, we're in the middle of this epic battle, and then you cut to Pippin talking to a tree. Um, yeah, wasn't a fan of that. Uh, the movie also kind of lost its steam a little bit halfway through, and it kind of dragged for like 20 minutes before it picked back up when we started getting back into things. Um, like I said, the first one, it it didn't really conclude itself, and that kind of brought the first one down for me, but it brought this one up. So I definitely see what they were doing there because this one continues right where that left off. So it did bring the first one down, but I guess it did bring this one back up, so it evens out. So another thing is with the Fellowship of the Ring, I gave that movie like a 7.5 out of 10, and really for me that movie was less entertaining, but it was objectively better than I was giving it credit for. So I got 7.5 out of 10. This one, I think I was entertained more by the first one. Definitely, I was entertained more than this one by the first one, but it's probably objectively worse. But entertainment is a huge factor in movies for me. Like we can have an objectively good movie, but if it's not entertaining, that's something else. Like Inception, one of the reasons why I hold that movie in such high regard is just how entertaining it is. Um, so yeah, this one was more entertaining for me. Um, yeah, so I think this one was definitely kind of brought that trilogy. What I liked in this one too was in the first one Frodo was the main character, and in this one like the main plot, Frodo actually kind of takes a backseat in this B plot, and the main plot is this kingdom of Rohan, and with Aragon and Legolas. Um, so yeah, that was something I liked about this movie is it expanded on all those characters. In the first one, Frodo got a spotlight, so they gave Frodo the back seat, and it worked really well. But the stuff that they had with Frodo, with him struggling with the ring, with Gollum, that all worked really well. That all was great, anyways. But I feel like if they just gave Frodo even more screen time, it wouldn't be as good. I don't know if they're going to focus on him more in the third one. That kind of seems like what's happening. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the third one after this one. I was worried that the second one wouldn't be as good, and then I'd have to kind of force myself to watch the third one. But I really enjoyed this. I thought it was this kind of epic story. The first one was really more of just an adventure. This one was more of kind of like a war movie almost. Um, so yeah, I really enjoyed the Two Towers. I'd give this an 8 out of 10, which is a really good. That means I thought the movie was really good. I don't know what's in store, but I'm definitely looking forward to where they take the characters in the next one. All right, so yesterday I watched Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, the last one. Um, so I wrote some notes um, throughout the day throughout the day and this morning because I didn't get the chance to record this last night. So yeah, I took some notes and I'm gonna kind of talk about Return of the King. So Return of the King is the last one. It's the longest one. I did not know this was 3.5 hours long, almost. Without excluding credits, it's about 3 hours and 12 minutes. So this movie is really long, and that's just the theatrical cut. The extended edition is like 4 hours or insane amount these extended editions are. Anyway, so I just watched the theatrical cuts, as you know. So the first thing I want to say is early in the first one, I think I said I thought the score was good, but the score has kind of grown on me. By this one, I really like the score. I think the score is really good. I think it perfectly fits this world. I think it has a lot of little cool things that are in the score. Things that it does. I like the score a lot better now. This movie was really epic in all senses of the word. It was just like this massive scale. The stakes were really high. I think the trilogy had very good build up overall, and I especially noticed that in this one is like, oh wow, they did a really good job at build up because I'm like super into this now. Going along with the tensions, the Peter Jackson is very good at going from very hopeful to very hopeless for our heroes. I mean, one moment you are like, they are going to lose. There is no way they can win. And then the next moment you're saying, all right, they got this in the bag. It's going to be okay. And then the next moment it's back to like, how will they get out of this? So it's an emotional roller coaster, this one. Another thing is the emotions. This movie has a lot of emotions in it. There were some parts that were very impactful emotionally, and I really enjoyed that in the film, and I think it did a really good job at that. And just being a roller coaster and a ride, and all of that said, that's kind of how the film keeps you engaged for the super long runtime, is because of how much of a roller coaster it is, and how you've been invested throughout the build up of the trilogy, and it all kind of ties together to create this really entertaining and really satisfying conclusion to the trilogy. Yeah, it almost never gets boring, except maybe the ending. The ending is like kind of weird. I think the ending was necessary. It was a necessary conclusion to the story. You can't have a trilogy like this and not have an ending like that. But it was like all kind of shot in slow mo, and it was kind of very slow. But I'm not saying it shouldn't have been there, because it definitely was necessary, and I definitely think it did a good job, and it did what it needed to do. Legolas is still awesome in this movie. When he like makes eye contact with the elephant, you're like, he's about to do some crazy thing, and then he goes up the tusks of the elephant and swings on top of it, and he just starts fighting these guys. It's just that Legolas is a legend, man. That guy, that is. Oh, that was hilarious. I mean, he just is like, he's a highlight in this trilogy. All right, Orlando Bloom as Legolas. He just he just does the most like awesome things you've ever seen, all the time. The another thing I want to talk about is the Sam, Frodo, and Gollum. I thought that was all done very well, very engaging. Again, going from hopeful to hopeless. I thought the ending, the ending of the plot, was the climax of the movie basically was just incredible. It was fantastic. I don't know if I've talked about this, but the production value of these movies is insane. The movies all are great. The cinematography in this one especially, I really loved it. There are these epic swooping shots, and I think they're like more common than they were back then. But I just think Lord of the Rings does it incredibly well, and the cinematography and the fight scenes are amazing. The guy who played Aragorn, I don't know his name, but his performance was amazing. His character was amazing in this movie, and he needed to be Aragorn. If he didn't work, then this movie wouldn't work, and this trilogy wouldn't work, because he's really a big part, especially in the Two Towers. I mean, we focus less on Sam and Frodo and more on Aragorn, and his performance really works, and he definitely sells it as who he's supposed to be. Um, yeah, Sam. Did I talk about Sam? When I was watching this, I was like, wait, Sam's like actually the big hero here. Sam is a legend. All right, like he is. Usually in these type of movies, the supporting characters, the main characters, like, you're my friend, and I couldn't have done it without you. But they could have. But here, Frodo would have gotten nowhere without Sam, man. Sam was like just that. Maybe he was even more important than Frodo. So yeah, I'd probably give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's the best out of the trilogy. And kind of wrapping everything up here, I think Lord of the Rings, I would definitely recommend this trilogy. If you're a fantasy fan, if you're a non-fantasy fan, I enjoyed it. And I think it just it's more of one giant movie than a trilogy, though. Like, this is really one epic story, and I really like that. It When I watched Fellowship of the Ring, I didn't really know that would be how it was. So I think I kind of enjoyed that movie less. Um, but by the end, I'm like, I see what they were doing. I see what Peter Jackson was doing here. Was he was making this one epic movie. I don't know if that's how the books are, but here that's definitely how it is. And I thought it was done really well. I really like the trilogy. Return of the King, I think was like a masterpiece. That's what 8.5 out of 10 means. If you don't know my rating system, you can go on my Discord. I do a whole bunch of movie reviews there. Um, yeah, just casually plugging my Discord there. Yeah, so I like Lord of the Rings. That's what I'm taking away from this. I think they're really good movies, really well crafted, really well made, really high production value, and really enjoyable. So that's really all I have to say.